So the first step in keeping it sharp is carrying a stone with you. I've got a whetstone holder.
And it looks like it's got some wet in there with the whetstone.
There's a little water in there. It doesn't take much. So, and it's very quick. Kind of just go down each edge of the blade, about like so. And that is just wet dressing with the stone. And there's different grades of stone. This one happens to be a very, very fine stone, a natural stone, and it takes off less material than if you use, there's some synthetic stones that you can use that are just a little bit coarser than that, and it takes a little bit more material off. And the more material you take off each time you use the stone, the more frequently you have to do the next step of sharpening, which is called peening. And when I'm out in the field and using the scythe, I will stop and use my stone to dress the blade about every 5 to 10 minutes. I will just give it a quick dressing, and because this stone is very, very fine, it doesn't take that much material off. And then after about 12 hours or so, give or take, of use, then you need to do what's called peening, which is really what thins the edge of the blade so that it'll take a nice sharp edge with the stone. So it's really a critical part of sharpening the blade. And it's a very simple clamp, just comes off like that. And the blade has a little tang there, and that fits in a hole that's on this snath saver, a little piece of metal that goes around the end of the wood snath. Now there's a couple of different approaches to peening. This is just a flat face anvil, and you can use the flat face anvil and this flatter edge of the peening hammer to draw out that edge, or you can use, this is called a peening jig, or not a peening jig, but a peening anvil with a support. And the support is adjustable. Right now it's a little bit loose. Is adjustable in height. You can raise or lower it based on what kind of blade you have. And you take that blade and you lay it on there. So just the very edge of the blade is on this flat, smooth face of the anvil. And these anvils need to be mounted in very sturdy wood block that doesn't have any vibration in it. So I try to find a nice stable place on the ground where it doesn't wiggle or absorb too much of the blows.
And so now what you're going to be doing is you're going to be smashing that flatter?
Just this very edge. You can kind of see where the color of the metal changes. It's about 1/16 of an inch of the edge of the blade. I will be smashing that, and that draws this edge of the blade out thinner. So in that thin edge of the wedge is what gets sharpened with the stone, and that just makes super razor sharp edge that cuts through things like butter. And once you use the stone a bunch of times, that very thin edge kind of gets worn back, and so it's a little bit blunter. Likewise with the peening, you can fix problems in your blade. If you have a crack or a little tear, you can actually draw that metal out and then file that metal back until you draw enough metal out that that tear disappears. You just pull it out, file it back, pull it out again, file it back, and then it'll basically blend in with the rest of the blade. Like right here we have a little blemish. See, it's a little ding right there. Let me just start with that, and you can show how that's done. So also on this peening anvil, it has these guides. So the edge of your blade goes up against these guides because you want the edge of your blade right in the center of your anvil. If it comes over center, then as you peen, it curves it downwards, and you don't really want that. You want it to kind of come straight out. So we'll start by just addressing this damaged spot. Draw it out a little bit more. There we go. See? It's gone. Just I've drawn that out a little bit, and then when I dress it with the stone, it will just flow into the rest of the blade. Now a lot of times you want to clean the edge of your blade and sometimes even just rough it up with a little bit of emery paper, and then when you peen it, it makes it shiny again. So the emery paper makes it a matte finish, and then by peening it, it makes it shiny again. It's like burnishing it. And so you can see where you've peened a little easier than if you don't do that. So we'll go ahead and I'll start from the tip. And you want to rest the blade on your knee and hold it so that it's not tipped up one way or the other. The tip is a little bit trickier because you're not able to rest it on this platform. So you're having to use your knee to hold it at the right angle on the peening anvil. And just kind of peen and gradually move it along. And it may be hard to see on the camera, but I can actually see that metal moving out. Here you can, I don't know if you can see that. See, this is a little bit further out than that.
Yeah,
and it's a little bit glossier right there than right there.
Oh yeah.
So we'll continue that line on down the blade. Now I'm getting to a place where this back rib of the blade can rest on this anvil, and it'll get, on the support on the anvil, and I'll be able to get a little bit more stable positioning. So each of my blows with the hammer, I'm trying to overlap the previous blow. So I get one blow, and then the next one is halfway on top of the previous blow and halfway onto new metal. And if you get it right, you can rest your blade. A lot of people say, "Oh, aren't you concerned about the blade touching this, dulling the blade that you've just peened?" So once you get going, you can rest it on this one, but don't touch it on this one. And as the blade moves forward, the freshly peened area doesn't really touch that. And these can be adjusted back and forth like that to suit your blade and your peening style. And once you get in a rhythm of it, each blow with the hammer, it kind of bounces the blade, and that bounce can advance the blade. Now, getting to the center of the blade, I'm holding it with both knees. Now there's a lot of different finer points to peening. A lot of people do a double row of peening. The trick is not to peen too deep into the blade, because if you peen like a 1/4 inch into the blade, then you end up with this wider, very thin section of the blade, and that makes the blade a little bit more fragile. If you hit a young little sapling or a piece of blackberry or something, you're apt to tear the blade. The trick is to just get that very edge, like a 1/16 of an inch or less edge, very thin, and draw that out. And then each time you peen, you draw out a little bit more, a little bit more. And if you have the very edge thin and just behind that edge is thick, then you have a stronger blade that's still able to get sharpened with the whetstone. So then after you peen, then lightly dress it. And I'm dressing it when it's on the snath. I dress it by pulling it away from that sharp edge like this. But after I peen, I dress it by pushing into the blade, being very careful not to cut your fingers. And you can see that very edge that I'm hitting with the whetstone is taking a little bit more of a sheen. And that should be it. And so you peen it, like I said, about every 12 hours of use, more or less, depending upon how lush or woody the material is you're cutting. And that's really, in a nutshell, all there is to maintaining your scythe, which takes a lot less time than maintaining your weed whacker. The ring on the blade first, put the tang in the hole. Hand tighten the Allen nuts. Now the blade has a little bit of play this way, and there's an adjustment that's made where it's called the hafting angle of the blade. And so let's see, if we go up against something, I can measure. Essentially you want the tip of the blade, like if I'm right here, I'm going to hold a steady hand. If I rock this back, the tip of the blade is the same point as that. You want the tip of the blade to be a little bit more advanced, so it should be a little bit lower. So by sliding this ring down a little bit, see there, it's a little lower than there. That's called the hafting angle. And you want a little bit of an advanced hafting angle for field mowing. It gives you a better cut. So I just loosely tighten that, and we'll check that again. They say 3 to 4 fingers width, so that's about right. Right there, right there. And different blades have different curvatures, so you gotta just check what's your blade's doing. This is what's called a peening jig, and it kind of takes some of the guesswork out of peening if you're just getting used to it and the basic part. So this is the anvil. It fits in the block like that, gets sunk in a little deeper, and then it has 2 caps. So this cap fits on like so, and each cap, and there's another cap here, each cap has a little bit different contour on the face of the cap. So the green cap is what you would use first, and it has the more radical contour on the tip of the cap, and it would fit in like so, and your blade would fit between the cap and the anvil like so. And you just pound that and move your blade along like I was peening the other one, and you would use the first cap and go the full length of the blade, and then put the second cap on and go the full length of the blade. And they work pretty good for a while, but after a bit of time you develop this little ridge a little bit back from the edge of the blade, which is outside the cap's range of peening, and so it ceases to become as effective after a period of time, and so you have to go to a regular anvil and use a hammer and draw that metal out.
So you might as well skip that one.
Yeah, but if you're a starter and you're not sure yourself, it will get you going for a ways, and then you can go ahead and use a regular anvil and the hammer and draw that out, and then it'll continue to go for a little bit. But it's really better to learn how to use this other peening setup for optimal peening.
If you like this sort of thing, come on out to the forums at permies.com, where we talk about sharpening tools, homesteading, and permaculture all the time.